Representative Lauren Boebert could be in a little bit of trouble. On Wednesday, local news station KDVR and the Associated Press reported that Boebert had failed to disclose her income that her husband had made from an energy firm while she was running for Congress. So now, of course, you have pretty strict reporting requirements when you're running for office, as well as for how you use money that you have raised for your campaign funds. That's the other part of this. But first, in paperwork filed with the House of Representatives on Tuesday, Republican Congresswoman reported that her husband, Jayson Boebert, received the money as a consultant to something called Terra Energy Productions in 2020 and earned $460,000 as a consultant for the firm in 2019. Interesting. But hey, you don't understand. Lauren Boebert, she's one of us guys. She's one of the working class. No, she's not. Never has been. Look, her husband, $500,000 almost in consulting fees for an energy firm. It's all part of the grift. And she's never planned on representing the actual working class in Colorado. So now, Boebert did not report the income last year when she first ousted Republican Representative Scott Tipton during the GOP primary in Colorado's 3rd District, and then went on to win the general election in the Republican-leaning district. But I guess in the midst of all that, she just must have forgot. Oh, that near $500,000 slipped her mind. Oops. What do you know? I just forgot. I forgot. But it gets more interesting. An important point that is in this article is that there's actually no company called Terra Energy Productions. So they kind of had to do a little bit of guesswork here and found Terra Energy Partners, which happens to be a Texas-based gas firm that operates wells in Boebert's district. So that seems to track. So okay, Terra Energy Productions, Terra Energy Partners, yeah, same thing. They're a big gas firm. Oh, look at that. They tend to operate in her area. So once again, that tracks. So he could definitely be a consultant for that company. So not surprisingly, as a result of this, or very likely as a result of this, Lauren Boebert happens to be massively against climate legislation. Now, look, you all saw the IPCC report. Now, doom and gloom for everybody. Disaster that is not only here, but more disaster that is on its way. We don't do something about oil and gas and switch to alternative energy sources. You phase out coal. And so now, of course, when it comes to doing that, unsurprisingly, she is voting against that, voting against, of course, infrastructure. One of the Republicans who's going to go against the reconciliation bill, of course. That's why it has to be in reconciliation, because it would never pass a Republican filibuster. And so, of course, she would vote against that in the House as well. So now that report also comes the same week that the FEC is investigating Boebert's apparent personal use of campaign funds. So we're not done here. Now this includes multiple Venmo payments totaling $6,000. No need to add any more zeros to that. That Boebert had since acknowledged as an error. Oh, I just accidentally sent $6,000 to people. I don't know how that happened. Yes, I know it happens to me all the time. It's just randomly Venmo people money. I wish I got randomly Venmoed $6,000. It'd be fantastic. All right, anyway. Now, she has also faced questions about the amount of reimbursement she takes from her campaign for travel, as she expensed 38,712 miles of driving during 3 months of campaigning. So, oh man, look, I know, Colorado, and not exactly the biggest state in the union, not like Texas or anything like that, but all right, 38,000 miles. Are you sure about that one? Why do I ask? Because it happens to be more than the circumference of the earth. I doubt you did that in 3 months of campaigning. Just saying. Now, it should be clear by now, at least to me it is, that Lauren Boebert does not represent the working class. I think she's in it for herself. I think she wants to make lots of money. I think she wants to raise her status, become a GOP celebrity. And, well, it appears that some of her voters might have actually caught on. In fact, there was an article, I think it's about last month, that it came out in Politico. This is from Jennifer Oldham, who spoke to people in her district. Some of them who obviously didn't vote for her, but some of them who did, and now have some regrets. Interesting. Now, some of them say that they're angry that she appears to have spent more time headlining GOP fundraisers than hosting public meetings to listen to their needs. They also say that she has failed to push for policy that would help the community, like Biden's infrastructure plan, for example, and also had voted against the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that had some pretty popular provisions in it, including direct aid, direct checks to Americans. Turns out that's actually a really popular policy when you give people money. And she voted against it, of course. Now, she says, well, I'm going against Biden's infrastructure because it's too expensive. We can't afford it in this country. Really? But we could afford, of course, to give tax cuts to the rich. Interesting. But no, I think it's because that $3.5 trillion reconciliation package has provisions in it addressing climate change, which includes a reduction of oil, gas, and coal, and an increase, of course, in renewable energy sources. But here's the thing. Her family, her income, literally relies on consulting fees from oil and gas companies. And so I no wonder they didn't file. It seems like it's a little bit of a conflict of interest, or more so, it just looks bad. If people pay attention and think, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you actually represent oil and gas, and that's why you're not going to pass the infrastructure. So that's why you're not in favor of infrastructure that will help our community. Well, then I guess you're just working for yourself here, and you're not actually representing us. This kind of reminds me of the story of Rand Paul. Now, Rand Paul also somehow failed to disclose his wife's stock trades. They made him a lot of money. Weird. Not only that, but you also have Joe Manchin, who has investments in fossil fuels that are actually end up being twice his congressional salary. Well, going back to her husband's consulting fees, that's also double her congressional salary. Gee, I wonder why they, want to hide these things. They don't want to talk about them. Interesting. Look, it's corruption. This is the personal finances of these politicians informing or supporting their policy positions. And that's where the corruption comes from. There's probably, to be fair, a 99% chance that she wouldn't have voted in favor of climate change legislation anyway without that money. But the money being there makes it a 100% chance that she'd never support climate legislation, even if, the entire West was on fire. I mean, at least there was the 1% chance, but now it's kind of like that old Upton Sinclair quote, which reads, "It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." Now, again, that's a lot of people in Congress, as I mentioned, Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, a lot of Republicans, just about all the Republican Party, and a lot of corporate Democrats as well fall into that category. And so, lo and behold, those people who are paid off by, for example, oil and gas are going to be against climate legislation. People who are paid off by pharmaceutical companies and healthcare companies, health insurance firms, well, of course, they're going to be against nationalizing insurance, healthcare insurance for people, and, making sure, guaranteeing that everybody can have healthcare. And so it's that situation. It's that corruption that is endemic in the system. And Lauren is just another one of those people who are taking public service and actually using it to serve herself. Not supposed to be that way, but with our broken system, with money in politics, that's the way it ends up being. And that's why we have to get the money out of politics. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.